Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the P. Carroll Sport Podcast. Paul Carroll here with you on this Tuesday, the 30th of September, as I'm recording. This week's podcast, we're going to be looking back on what happened in Tipperary in the County Hurling Championship quarter-final weekend. Plenty to get to. I should have closed that door properly before I started recording, but here we are. And we've a lot of games to look at. Of course, all four quarter-finals in the Senior, Premier Intermediate and Intermediate we'll be looking at, and also the relegation semi-finals in the Senior. And I haven't changed the camera over. This is a terrible start, but there we go. And you can see the fixtures there as if you didn't know them already. So before we get started, a few kind of housekeeping notes. Big thanks for the support on last week's podcast. It's done well. We asked for 75 likes. Last time I checked, we got 100 on the button. So I proved it last week when I set that like goal. People love an all target. So let's shoot for the stars. Let's go for triple figures. 100 likes on this week's podcast and we'll be laughing. Let me tilt my camera just a little bit. There we go. So yeah, looking back on this week's, the weekend that's just gone by, we've a few questions to get to as well. A few listeners sent in questions on Twitter and also over on Instagram. I put out a story before I recorded, just wondering was there any topics you wanted to get to. So I've all those replies written down and we'll get back to those towards the end of the podcast. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram or anything like that, it's at pcarrollsport. So that's where we're at now. So let's get straight into it. We'll start with the Senior. We'll go down to the Premier Intermediate, and we'll also talk about the relegation semi-finals in the Senior as well when we get to it. So first of all, an overall sense, I suppose there was a lot of excitement last week going into the county championship, going into the quarter-final weekend, just for the buzz of the fixtures. A lot of 50-50 games on paper. I would say 3 of the 4 Senior quarterfinals, to be fair, were probably a little bit of a letdown, and then one of them was incredible. So, we got a mix of everything, but the game we're going to start with was the one that was incredible. That game between Drummond Inch and Moycarkey Burris, just wow, what a game! It finished up Drummond Inch 7-23, Moycarkey Burris 128 after extra time. Where do we even start with this game? 7-23, like you don't see, and like Reece Shelley was in goals for Moycarkey, couldn't really do anything about any of the goals that Drummond Inch scored, but this was a game that just ebbed and flowed, so entertaining. The first half, it was all kind of Moycarkey. They went in 5 points up at half time. Drummond Inch had only managed 8 points, and you're kind of thinking, God, this is very flat from Drummond Inch. Like, where are they going to get the scores from? Second half started the same, and then about 10 minutes into it, they bring on David Butler and Johnny Ryan. David Butler goes to the edge of the square. David Collins goes in there with him. And it just transformed. Drum were pumping ball down. The lads were just causing havoc inside. Lads were getting on breaks. David Butler scored 2 goals, set up one. Seamus Callanan, like Seamus Callanan, lads. What a performance he put in. I've him down for 211. He'd 230 going into the championship, 211 on Saturday or Sunday. Like, what can you say? If you were there, it was actually nearly a privilege to be there to see that performance from Seamus Callanan. He done it all. Like, the first goal he got, bearing down on goal from the angle, Reece Shelley in the goals, and first of all he lets the ball in behind him and the defender, and he gets it into his hands, cuts inside, narrow angle on his left. You think he might go across the goalkeeper, but the way Reece Shelley holds the hurley, like, across the goalkeeper would have favoured Reece. So instead he puts it, like, let's see if I can put the camera back on. Oh, that's the way Reece holds the hurley. That's I'm looking at this opposite way now, but Boss is here. Shamey went over this right shoulder into the top corner. Nothing Reece could do, and Reece kicked out at Shamey Callanan when he was running past. Could it have been a red card? I think would have been harsh. But that was Shamey's first goal, and Shamey's second goal. You've definitely seen it online at this stage. Literally on his arse, on the edge of the 14, wins the ball down on his arse, throws it up. I'm not sure. I must watch it back properly. Was it one hand or two hands? But he flies it into the top corner at the Kilruane end. It was just incredible. But those were 3 second half goals for Drummond Inch. David Butler got 2, and you nearly get mixed up with them all, how they all worked out. But just Moycarkey were really vulnerable to those long balls, and once Drummond Inch discovered that, they just kept pumping them in, and Moycarkey were really, really struggling. But in fairness to Moycarkey, they were 6 points up in the second half. Drum get these quick fire goals. Drum end up going 5 or 6 points up, and then Moycarkey edge it back point by point. Didn't get another goal. The goal they got was after 30 seconds. Jack Hayes, who I've been really impressed with all year, he got the goal. But they stayed plugging away, and it came down to the 63rd minute, the 3 minutes into additional time, and Jack Fallon was the man who threw up a dummy in the middle of the field under a lot of pressure, given the context, a point down, fired it over. And they made a good decision as well, the Moycarkey management. We're about 90 seconds into additional time. There's 3 minutes added on. They won a 21-yard free. Reece Shelley had kind of run up to take it. Kieran Morris looked to the sideline, and they said over the bar, I'd say, and he straight away put it over the bar. Reece had to run back down the far end of the field. So they just trust themselves that they would get one more chance in the 90 seconds if they worked hard, try and get the ball to a shooting position. And Jack Fallon ended up getting onto that ball in the middle of the field, right where the referee throws it in, throws up that dummy on his right hand side, down in towards the town end and Sebald Stadium, and over the bar it went. Huge score. That sent it. That was the last puck of the normal time. Sends it to extra time, and you're thinking, God, Drum are going to be sick now. Drum missed an awful lot of chances to win the game in normal time as well. They hit 3 or 4 wides in a row. David Collins got one, if I remember correctly. Who else? Was it Michael Campion got one kind of central position on the 45? They had like 3 or 4 chances in a row to kind of put the game to bed, and they missed those chances, and then Moycarkey punish and send it to extra time. But when the players were running down the tunnel, the Drum and Inch like subs beside the tunnel there were just dejected kind of, and all the Moycarkey subs were like tapping their lads on the back as they're going back down the tunnel. So you're thinking, God, this could be, that could be it for Drum and Inch. Will they be able to recover now? All the momentum was with Moycarkey Burris, but the extra time period, Drum and Inch scored 4-7, just unbelievable. Is it Jamie Bergen came on and scored a goal straight away. Jack Lillis came on and scored a goal. Cormac Fitz got the goal. I'm trying to remember, was it normal time or extra time he got the goal, Cormac Fitz, but his one was he pulled on it on the ground. Shamey made one of the most scandalous plays I've ever seen. This was in the second half of extra time. Shamey 38, 37, 38, I'm not too sure. 70 minutes of hurling in the legs. He makes a block on his own 45, solo runs the whole length of the field up to the far 21, past a few players, off the hurley, over the bar, and you're just like, cinema. Unbelievable stuff from Seamus Callan. 2-11 on the day. And we did get a question sent in about Seamus Callan. We may as well get to that now, if I can bring it up in front of me. Where is it? We have one there about Kyle Barrett we'll get to in a second. This one is from Tip Back That a Fact on Twitter. Genuine question for the podcast. If Shamey is back fully healthy and hurling like that, does Liam Cahill give him a call? Is this a genuine possibility? What I would say to that is, that was the best performance I've seen in Tipperary club hurling for, God, like off the top of my head, I struggle to remember a better one, to be honest. That was unbelievable by Seamus Callan. Would Liam Cahill give him a call? I think Shamey Callan has probably given enough to Tipperary in terms of wear and tear on the body. Shamey's had back surgeries and things like that. I think, and speaking to the Drum and Inch manager, Matthew Buckley, after the match, he mentioned how much work Shamey puts in behind the scenes to have his body right to be able to do that. So I don't think Shamey would be able he doesn't need to put his body through what it takes to play inter-county hurling, considering what his body's already been through. I'm sure if Shamey Callan was put onto the field at an inter-county stage at this point of his career, he'd still be able to hold his own, no doubt. But just for himself, his body has been through enough at this stage. I'd imagine he's able to manage it at the club level in terms of the training load and things like that, and be ready for the matches every couple of weeks. And Jesus, that was unbelievable. David Butler, we mentioned as well. The flicks, the tricks, the use of his body underneath the high ball, absolute nightmare to mark. Cormac Fitz continued his good form, 1-3 on the day for him. Was really, really impressed with Robbie Long. He must have been on the ball more than anyone on the pitch. He got 2 points for a finish, but he was just all over the place. And looking at the wide count, I make it Drummond had 21 wides between normal time and extra time, and Moycarkey Burris had 13, but 21 wides and scoring 723. You know, that's what 744. What's that? 7 and 44 is 51 shots on goal, and they probably had a couple maybe that dropped short into the goalkeeper throughout the game. So, you know, that's an incredible amount of shooting and scoring from Drummond. Just an incredible performance from them. Really impressed all round, to be honest. Johnny Ryan made a big difference when he came in. Just used to the ball, getting on the ball in the middle of the field, and just knowing how to send those nice kind of. They're kind of going. They weren't just lumping long ball down. It was kind of diagonal placed ball in on top of the two lads in there. David Collins was very effective. Only 2 points from on the day, but he was very effective. But even for that Seamus Callan goal, David Butler, that kind of back flick in towards Shamey to set him in on goal was really good stuff. I was also impressed with Kevin Hassett's cornerback. I've mentioned before, I really like that Drummond full back line of Robbie Long, Fintan Purcell and Kevin Hassett. Kevin Hassett just a few flicks away at the right time. Owen Kendi, their number 19, started the game. He had a great battle in there with Jack Hayes. Stuck to him like glue. Jack Hayes was Moycarkey's best player. I think he scored 1-2, but that probably doesn't even reflect his impact on the game. Like, he's shown for every ball, he's winning every ball. Really threatening player. Elsewhere for Moycarkey, their scores, they did a big mix of scores. Kieran Morris scored 12, Bill Flanagan a point, Joe Egan a point, David Costigan got 2, Pat Malloy got 1, Killian Cantwell came on and scored 2, Kieran Cummins had 1, Max Hackett had a point, Jack Fallon had 2, Stephen Walsh had 1, and Reece Shelley had 2 points as well. Reece is, you know, both Reece and Owen Collins at different times of the game hit just lovely puck outs. They're such nice strikers of the ball. Reece scored a few long range frees, missed a few as well, but each one of them were like inside his own 45, and the ball is hitting the top of the net behind the goals at that trajectory. Like, you know, it's just falling wide or anything like that. He's able to absolutely ping him through the air. So yeah, Drummond back into a semi-final for the first time, I think, since 2022. I would have had that on my notes. I don't have my notes on me. Well, I could pull them up on the screen, but we won't worry too much about it. So huge win for Drummond there for Moycarkey Burris. Disappointing one. You know, they would have felt like they were in control of the game, and they just weren't able to come to grips with those two lads inside and those direct balls. And we saw that throughout the weekend. Direct hurling is back. You know, between themselves, Loughmore Castellini went very direct with their playing for large parts against Toomevara. But it is Drummond who go marching on. What a win, 723 to 128. It's a game, I haven't actually watched it back on Clubber yet, but I will throughout the week, because God, that was very entertaining inside in Semple Stadium. So let's go on to the other game, which had a really tough act to follow. This was Nenagh Rogue and Kilruane McDonough's. That was on after the Drummond game. Nenagh winning this game 124 to 215. It was a slow game, much slower pace, much less excitement, I would say. But there was plenty of drama towards the end of the game. But as I have written down in front of me in my notes, as I'm just reflecting back on the game after, slow game, Barry Heffernan was mopping up everything for Nenagh. He was playing a sweeper role. There was a lot of standoffishness from both teams, from puck outs. You know, it was one of those games where all the puck outs are like flicked out to the cornerback and they're trying to work it up the field. A lot of loose clearances, particularly from Kilruane, down on top of Barry Heffernan. Barry is such a clever player. He's going to just mop up any of those loose clearances, and he did that all day. Reflecting back on this, I gave Kilruane the nod coming into this game. I just fancied him against Nenagh. I think if the game was played in somewhere like Templederry, it would much more suit Kilruane, just that narrower, smaller field. The expanses of Semple Stadium, Nenagh have such athletic players. We saw a couple of occasions, Conor Hennessy, Mason Cawley just surging up the field, Sam O'Farrell as well. Josh Keller, very good runner with the ball, but particularly Mason Cawley just bombing up the field. That really suited Nenagh, and Kilruane were tired. Kilruane were down a lot of bodies for a finish. Jerry Cal went off injured just before half time. Niall O'Mara came out for the second half, and they had him playing full forward because he was carrying an injury. Thomas Cleary was taken off at half time. I'd imagine some sort of injury, but brought back on for Keane O'Kelly. They were they're just that type of team, Kilruane, where if they have their starting 15, they can beat anyone in the county. But it's when they have to dig maybe into the panel, they've kind of a lot of young lads, and maybe not just the depth and numbers in that panel. And there's kind of a big drop off between Joe, obviously a Niall O'Mara and a sub, and other players and a sub, But I was really impressed with Shane Cleary from a Kilruane point of view, and Michael Cleary. Michael Cleary got 3 points. Shane Cleary didn't actually score, but he was involved in a lot of the action. The goal for Kilruane, long ball down. Keane Kelly goes up to catch it. It falls to Thomas Cleary. He puts it into the back of the net. And Kieran Cal got a goal. This kind of game was Nenagh in the lead by 5-6 points throughout the game. And it kind of felt, yeah, Nenagh are going to just kind of coast this one through. But then, with about 7 or 8 minutes to go, Kieran Cal broke forward for Kilruane, buries it into the back of the net, and suddenly it's a 1 point game, and you're thinking, God, Nenagh have kind of slept walked through this, and they could be beaten here, and they'll be absolutely sick if they lose this game. But in fairness to Nenagh, after they conceded that goal, about 5 minutes to go, they puck the ball down long, it breaks in towards Ben West in behind the full back line. He's bearing down on goals. He's fouled. He was only on the field a few minutes, and Jake Morris steps up, sticks the penalty into the back of the net, and that was the kind of the game after that. So that was 1-3 for Jake Morris on the day. Mikey Heffernan with 12 points, Sam O'Farrell with 3 points, Mason Cawley with 2, Conor Ryan got a point, and Tommy Heffernan came on for Adam Carey. And Tommy Heffernan, he's a pure scorer. Like, he will take chances when they're there. He got 3 points. But yeah, all in all, I think Nenagh's athleticism was the difference here. I mentioned Conor Hennessy, Mason Cawley. These are such good runners with the ball. Conor Ryan is a strong runner too. And yeah, Sam O'Farrell got some real nice points in the first half. He's very comfortable just shooting. Everything kind of looks very simple for him. There was a possible red card. Sean McAdams come onto the field, gave a real high shoulder into the head of Mikey Heffernan. Mikey Heffernan, I saw him going off on full time, just walking down the tunnel, and his chin was all bloody. I was at the old stand side in the press box. That was right over at the new stand sideline. So if you were over there, you would have had a better look at it than I would. A lot of people I was talking to said he was very lucky not to be sent off, considering it happened in the exact same part of the field where Owen Connolly was sent off. And we'll get to that Owen Connolly incident in a bit. Another key moment in this game was Niall O'Mara had a point in the first half that was waved wide. Sun in the eyes of the umpire, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. But from our viewpoint in the press box in the old stand, that wasn't even close to being wide. And Niall O'Mara was very, very upset. The Kilruane lads were very upset with the linesman on the near side. And Niall O'Mara popped up for another point later in that first half, and he kind of looked towards the linesman after he scored it. That was very frustrating for Kilruane. They went in at half time down 14 points to 110, down a point. They should have been level, but that's just how it goes. Sometimes that happens in games. All in all, Nenagh were deserving winners, but you would feel for Kilruane MacDonagh's losing Drury Cahill before half time. Niall O'Mara not 100%, coming off the quick turnaround from the preliminary quarterfinals 7 days earlier. One of those games, when it was playing out, I was kind of thinking in my head, I should have given my prediction to Nenagh here. But Nenagh go marching on into the semi-finals now, first time since 2020 for them. So they will be playing Drum and Inch in the semi-finals. We'll get to the draws and that a little bit later on. But big win there for Nenagh. They beat Kilruane MacDonagh's and into the semi-finals. Right, let's go to the games on Saturday. We will start with the first one I have in front of me, Loughmore Castleiney against Toomevara, 322 to 220, a 5-point win for Loughmore Castleiney. And Eamon Corcoran was with myself on commentary on Tip FM, and he called it a 5-point hammering. The kind of game it was, Loughmore got 3 goals in the first half, and basically that was kind of it, to be honest. Toom looked very vulnerable in the full back line, which is unusual for Toomevara. The likes of Andrew Ryan back there, Jake Ryan, they're usually solid, but they just couldn't handle. All Loughmore were doing in that first half was getting ball and very simple, lump it down to the forwards. Excuse me. Like Drum were doing in the second half of their game. Drum were kind of pinpointing these kind of crossfield balls a bit some of the time. For Loughmore, it was just get the ball down towards John McGrath, Kieran McGrath, Liam McGrath, and let them lads work at it. And that's what they did. Like, John McGrath got a goal from nothing. Two men kind of on him, edge of the square, wins it on the ground, spins, turns, buries it low past the goalkeeper. Mossy McGrath, like that, breaking ball in around the 21, Toom with a few chances to clear it. They win the dirty ball. He breaks through, kicks it into the back of the net. The first goal was Ed Connolly, Rory Breslan, puck out towards the 45 central position, cut out by Ed Connolly. He's a pure athlete and a really good hurler as well. He was able to just take it up to the 14 and smash it into the top corner. 1-5 for Ed Connolly. He'd only won 6 coming into that game, and he scores 1-5 all from play. He was brilliant. Kieran McCormack, 3 sidelines for him on the day. Just unbelievable stuff from him, making it look so easy. But, like, not to overly simplify the review of this game, but those 3 first half goals were just the difference, and you knew that Loughmore would have the experience to slow the game down, get the scores when they needed in the second half, and that's what they did. And Toom were kind of dumbfounded by the concession of those goals. 3-11 to 11 points at half time. Toom got a few goals late on. One of them was a crazy goal. Seamus O'Farrell kind of got one. Seamus O'Farrell came on to mark Noel McGrath, and was kind of on him and annoying him at times, but Noel McGrath is Noel McGrath. He got 2 points. I don't need to talk much about Noel McGrath. I think you all know his qualities at this point, but the last goal for Toom was just crazy, or their second goal was very near the end. Loughmore had won a free out on their own 21, and like, I was nearly marking something on my sheet because it was like, it's a free out on the 21, the goalie's coming out to take it. And I looked up, and just as I looked up, Aidan McGrath, the goalkeeper, was rising it and just hit it straight to Jack Delaney, who was maybe 10-15 yards outside the 21. Jack Delaney got it, hit it into the empty net, and I saw Jack Delaney and Aidan McGrath have an exchange, like had a bit of crack, I'd say. Jack probably said, "Sound for that, Aidan." I could have done with that earlier, maybe. It was bizarre from Aidan McGrath, but he's such a cool, composed player. Like, when the ball goes into him, he just slows everything down. He's never under pressure, but that was just a moment of madness. But what better time to happen than when you're way up right at the end of a match? So it didn't make any difference at all. Darren McCarthy, 8 points for him for Toomevara point of view. Kevin McCarthy got 2, 1-3 for Jack Delaney, 2 points for Adam Hall. I just think, like, it was the concession of those goals. That's all I can really say. That Toom looked really vulnerable back there, and Loughmore put them to the sword and kind of coasted then after that. Other scores: Kieran Connolly got a point, Noel McGrath got 2, Liam McGrath got a point, Paul Moycarkey come on and scored 2 points. I mentioned Kieran McCormack got the 3 sidelines. He got a point from play as well. So Loughmore just so comfortable playing with each other. Everyone knows their role. Everyone knows exactly how they're playing, who to get the ball to. First half, as I said, very simple game plan. Just get the ball down to the lads and let them do the work. So Loughmore go marching on into a semi-final, and it's going to be hard to see and bet, really. Now, they're playing Holycross, and we'll talk about Holycross in just a second, but this Loughmore Castellani team, they're just showing no signs of slowing down. They're still the same team. They're still really hard to beat. They have a couple of subs that they can bring on now. Liam Tracy come on, Mikey Ryan come on, Paul Moycarkey seems to make a difference when he comes on in every game. But just such a settled team, and it's going to take a really, really good team to beat Loughmore Castellani. For Toom, disappointing for them. They probably have a couple of older players that you'll be interested to see how they continue in the next couple of years, but they do have a lot of nice young lads coming through. So by no means end of the line stuff for this Toomevara team. A lot of their better players are under 25 and even younger than that, so they're going nowhere. But they'll be disappointed now just with the performance. I'd say they'll be obviously very disappointed with the result, but just how they conceded those goals. First one was a mistake, had chances to clear the second and the third goal, and if you're giving Loughmore Castellani a 3-goal head start on you, it's going to be bad news, and it was bad news for Toomevara. So let's go to the final quarter-final we're going to talk about in the Senior Championship. Holycross Ballycal 4-23, Cashel Cormac's 2-17. This game, Holycross were just hungry for goals early on. Robbie Ryan absolutely roofed one. Owen Craddock got on the end of a kind of a scrappy play, got onto the end of it, maybe a saved shot. Aaron Brown made a couple of great saves, and Owen Craddock was there to kick it into the back of the net. But the real killer was Robbie Ryan's second goal just before half-time. Cashel were hanging in there. It was a 6-point game just before half-time, and Robbie Ryan from close range blasted into the back of the net to make it 3-11 to 11 points at half-time, the exact same half-time score as the Loughmore Toom game. And then the second half came, and Cashel, in fairness to them, weren't going away. They kept it close, got it back to maybe, well, it was 7 or 8 points, and on the 40th minute, Owen Connolly gets a straight red card. It was 3-14 to 15 points at the time there, as I have it. I thought it was very harsh. I thought it was harsh. Now, looking back at it, when you slow it down, it's probably into the head of David Fogarty, but it's kind of, he's not sprinting kind of out of control, lower the shoulder straight into the head. Like, David Fogarty kind of turns, and it's a one-step kind of push in from Owen Connolly. I thought a yellow would have sufficed. Look, Michael Kennedy is a brilliant referee. He consulted his linesman before it, but I just thought it was a harsh red card for Owen Connolly. But did it make a difference to the overall game? I would say no, but still very disappointing for Owen Connolly. Interesting to see will they appeal that, because they don't want him missing for the first round next year. That's something to keep in mind. Brian O'Mara back for Holycross. What a player to get back, the captain of the team. Of course, injured for a good bit. Just so impressed with this Holycross team again. Carl Barrett got 2 yellow cards and a red card on the 53rd minute. He just jumped in front of a free that was going to be taken quickly on the 21, and that was his second yellow. But he had a really, really good game, Carl Barrett. We'll get to a question about him in just a second. Elsewhere, Dara Woods, 13 points for him. Scored one off his left on the sideline on the old stand side. Scored one off the right on the sideline on the new stand side of the field. He scored a sideline. Owen Connolly got a brilliant sideline as well. But Dara Woods' performance was just incredible. And I think the difference between the two teams was just the cohesiveness. Like, Holycross Ballycal worked together, that forward unit, they all know each other so well. Like, the first goal was Cathal O'Reilly to Tiernan Ryan. Tiernan Ryan pops it off to Robbie Ryan, and he buries it. Their fourth goal was Joe Caesar, so good at running through the middle, Joe Caesar. And when he gets in one-on-one with the goalkeeper, this was 3 minutes after the red card, I have it down, that Joe Caesar goal made it 4-15 to 16 points. So good running through the middle, and he's so composed when he's in one-on-one with the goalkeeper. We saw it against Kilruane when he was breaking through. He's able to throw it up, and if he wants to shoot, he can do that, but he can also play the hand pass, play the stick pass, just so composed in one-on-one with the goalkeeper. It was a bit of a scrappy finish for a finish, but it was brilliant stuff from Joe Caesar. But Holycross very comfortable playing together, whereas I thought Cashel were taking an awful lot of pot shots and over the shoulder, off balance stuff. Now, you could say Dara Woods was doing that on occasion as well, but Dara Woods kind of nearly has a license to do that because he scores these unbelievable points, particularly in Semple Stadium. But yeah, I just thought Cashel, a few times they were just picking the wrong option. Even in the first half, they had after Holycross had got a couple of those goals, Cashel were down by about 7 points, but this first half, and they won a 21-yard free, and it wasn't directly on the 21, it was a bit off centre, so a bit more of a distance on it, and they went for goal, and I just thought, that's not the right thing to be doing. I would say just pop it over the bar. Now, if it went into the back of the net, you might be saying something different, but I just thought some of their decision making was poor, but I was impressed, as I have always been throughout this year, by Ross Bonner. He's just always game for this Cashel team, always working hard. He scored 4 points as well. Devon Ryan with 8, Ger Brown with a couple of points, and the goals came from Ronan Connolly, close range, kind of late on. If it was talking about the NFL, you'd call it garbage time, the end of the game, where the game is kind of over. Buried it into the top of the net from close range, long range free, bouncing around. Carl Quinn got a good goal like 30 seconds later, so there was that small period of time where you're like, okay, this was like with 3 minutes to go. Um, they got 2 goals very quickly to make it a 9 point game. Like, you know, they were still an awful lot down, but you're thinking, okay, what if they get another one? What happens? But Holycross kind of weathered the storm and got the victory. But as I said, really impressed. Holycross had 10 lads starting, as I've mentioned this stat before, from last year's under-21 team. Carl Barrett was the oldest player on the field. Carl Barrett's 32 years of age. There was no one else over the age of 30 starting for either team. Just unbelievable youth in both squads. For Cashel in general, reflect back on the year well, you know, up from the Premier Intermediate grade. They had that big win over Mullinahone on day one, and we had mentioned at the very start of the year on the preview podcast for the championship that I had Cashel in the tier list of would want to be careful, and that was because if they lost that first game against Mullinahone, well, then they had Nenagh and Thurles to come. They won that game, then they beat Nenagh, and then they had the 3 point defeat to Thurles. But all in all, very good year for Cashel. Lots of young players coming through. Really impressed with Ronan Connolly throughout the year. Of course, Owen Connolly, and there's a lot to build on there for that Cashel team. And you know, none of those players are anywhere near kind of retirement or anything like that. So just a lot that they can be happy with and build on going into 2026. Oisin O'Donoghue didn't get much into the game at all. He was being well marshalled. Just didn't really get much into the game. It kind of ended up being one of those games where nothing went his way. He took a 21-yard free near the end and went for goal and ended up getting nothing. It went wide and it was too high anyway. But you know, he has an awful lot of hurling played this year. I know he probably has under 21 to come for Cashel throughout the winter, but one of those players that could do it a month or two off, I'd imagine, Oisin O'Donoghue, just to get the body right. Still under 20 with Tip next year, and of course going to be part of Liam Cowell's senior team as well, you'd imagine, next year. Shane Neville come on for Cashel in the second half. Really impressed with him. Real hard. He was in the forward line, winning nearly every ball that went into him. I was very impressed with how he performed. So he missed out with injury throughout the year, so he was a big loss. For Holycross, back to a semi-final, first time since 1999, which is incredible. It's huge excitement, I'd imagine, in the Holycross club. The goals, as I mentioned, from 2 from Robbie Ryan, 1 from Owen Craddock. Owen Craddock had a brilliant start to the game and he was effective throughout, but 1-3 for him on the day. Mikey Nally offers something really different for this team. You know, they have a lot of nippy, tidy forwards like David Fogarty, Dara Woods, Tiernan Ryan, Robbie Ryan, but Mikey Nally is a big ball winner in there and offers them something different. Ty Gould, I'm always so impressed when I see him play. He's so composed for his age, never looks out of sorts whatsoever. So huge win for Holycross, and they take on Loughmore Castellini. And we do have a question in about Cathal Barrett that we'll get to. Excuse me, my throat is getting a little bit dry now. I'm not sure if we'll have to take the water break here at some stage, but this is from Grassroots and Glory on Twitter. As discussed brilliantly on today's Smaller Fish podcast, Cathal Barrett is having an outstanding year with Holycross Ballycal. He's a brilliant player and is fully fit once again. Should Liam Cahill bring him back into the squad for 2026? So obviously a lot of talk before last year about Cathal Barrett and I suppose his exclusion from the Tipperary setup. To be honest, I don't think Liam Cahill will call Cathal Barrett back in. That's just the kind of feeling I have. I would 100% agree that Cathal Barrett is playing unbelievable this year, and back full back is perfect for him. He's still as aggressive as ever. He's so good at getting little flicks. He's always tight to his man. I just think that with the age profile of the Tipperary team at the minute, I'd imagine Liam Cahill is looking for the future of developing these young lads coming through from the under-20s and things like that. So I don't think he'll call Cathal Barrett in, but who knows? Like, Cathal Barrett is playing so well at the minute that, you know, would you be surprised for him to get a call up? But that's just where it is at the minute. I think he done an interview, I haven't actually read it back, with John Fogarty in the Examiner last week about really wanting to get back. Well, he's shown that with his performances on the pitch. So let's see how that develops. There's a long time to go till the start of the 2026 inter-county campaign. But for Holycross Ballycal, Cathal Barrett has been brilliant. Did get the red card with the 2 yellows, but as I said, kind of stopped a quick free from throwing himself in front of it for the second yellow. So, but yeah, brilliant performance all around from Holycross Ballycal, and it is going to be really interesting to see how they get on against Loughmore Castellini in the semi-finals, because Aidan Stakelum, Holycross Ballycal man, was coaching Loughmore last year. He's coaching Holycross this year, so he'll have good knowledge of what to expect from Loughmore. It's kind of a youth versus the old head, like the old head of Loughmore, who've been here, done this for the last decade. I know they have a lot of young players too, but all the McGraths, all the experience they have in that Loughmore team against a Holycross team who none of them have played in a county semi-final before. For these Loughmore lads, this is a lot of them 5th, 6th, some of them maybe 7th county semi-final. It's nothing to them. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic to look forward to in 2 weeks' time. Let's run you down quickly through the relegation semi-finals in the Senior Hurling Championship. Roscrea with a big win over Lura, 121 to 118. How this game played out: Lura were 112 to 11 points up at half-time. It was a Conor Kendi goal after 15 minutes. Classic Bonner wins the dirty ball, pops it off to a player I always love watching, Owen McIntyre. He's always direct. He gets it off to Conor Kendi. Low finish past the goalkeeper. Michael Kendi in the Lura goal made a brilliant save from a Conor Dooley shot in the first 5 minutes. It was a low shot and he reacted really good to swing his hurley across his body and get it away. But 112 to 11 points at half time to Lura, but the second half started straight away from the throw-in. Dan Ryan got it. Just an impossible man to stop when he's running forward with the ball. Big, strong runner. He pops it off to another man that's very hard to stop. That's Alan Tynan, and he put it into the back of the net. It was level on the 47th minute, and then there was a flurry of 3 points in a row from Roscrea. There was a big score from Dan Ryan on the 50th minute. That put Roscrea in the lead, 117 to 116. And then in the next 60 seconds, Shane Fletcher put one over and Alan Tynan put one over. And that was kind of where the game was won and lost. That 120-second, 2-minute period where Dan Ryan got that point, Shane Fletcher and Alan Tynan got those points. So 121 to 118 it finished. Huge win for Roscrea, and they're saved at the senior status, and they'll be playing Dunbreen Hurling in 2026. Roscrea did have a lot of wides late on, as I've noted there as well, but they got the win 121 to 118, and they won't care about those wides now because they've the feet up for the winter. The other game was County Rossmore 221, Mullinahone 115. Lovely goal in the 12th minute for County Rossmore. Ferncombe and Nathan Slattery combining, and then Kieran Quirk roofed it into the back of net. That was down at the kind of the clubhouse end in Cashel. That was 1-6 to 4 points. Alan Curran bounced back for Mullinahone with a goal on the 15th minute. Long ball down, and he was kind of falling backwards. Ball rolling towards the end line, and as he's falling, he flicks it past the goalkeeper into the back of the net. I've noted here as I was watching the game back, I thought Nathan Slattery was playing very, very well for Clounty. Danny Slattery went off injured on the 26th minute. It was like a collision on the 45, and two lads just didn't see each other coming, and pure accidental stuff ran into each other. And Danny Slattery, Tipperary panellist this year, seemed dazed walking off. So obviously good call from the Clounty management to look after him and get him off the field. It was 112 to 1-9 at half time to Clounty, and then a goal from Jack Ryan. 1-1 from him in the first few minutes of the second half. Like when he gets going, he's a big handful. That made it 2-13 to 1-9, and that was kind of, it almost felt like the game at that point. But Mullinahone just never go away. On the 52nd minute, they had it back to 5 points, and they forced a brilliant save out of Jason O'Dwyer. How many times have we said that this year? Jason O'Dwyer making a big save for Clounty. He's had a very good year, in fairness to him. So he made that big save. And then Stephen Ferncombe, brilliant as always, especially from the frees. He's just deadly accurate. He's a real sharpshooter, marksman kind of player, Stephen Ferncombe. So big win for Clounty there, 221 to 115. Let's have a look at our predictions. How did we get on? Moycarkey Burris Drummond-Inch, I went with Moycarkey, so that is incorrect by me. Holycross and Cashel Kincormac's, I went with Holycross. They won the game. As I said, I did go with Kilruane to beat Nenagh. Nenagh won the game. And I did go at Loughmore Castellini to beat Toom, and Loughmore did win the game. So that is 2 from 4. And then in the relegation games, I did go at Lura, but Roscrea won the game, and I did go at Clounty, and they did win the game. So what are we? We're 3 from 6 so far, 50%. As I said, we're kind of always kind of batting around that 60% mark. So let's go down to the Premier Intermediate now. Kind of last word on the senior. Really looking forward to those semi-finals. Loughmore against Holycross. I mentioned the kind of storylines there of Aidan Stakelum and the young guns against the wise heads of Loughmore. Then the other game is pure opportunity for both Drummond and Nenagh. They would have been delighted to get each other, I would say. They'll both fancy it. You know, I think Drummond, that goal threat, the form of Shamie Callanan, the kind of warriors they have all over the field. It's going to be a really interesting game for Nenagh. Nenagh will feel like they won the game, but I feel like they didn't play their best, and sometimes that's a sign of a good team that they didn't play their best and they won. But I'd be a little bit fearful that Kilruane were well off their best due to tiredness, players injured, things like that. And Nenagh, it took them late on to beat Kilruane, but they bet them, and that's all that matters. And they can work away now for 2 weeks and get themselves right for Drummond. But Nenagh will see this as a big chance to get to a county final. Haven't been in a county final since, was it 20? It was one of the years Thurles was in it, wasn't it? Was it 20? Am I right in saying that? Was it 2014 or 2016? Around that. Let me see. Tipperary Senior Hurling Championship. And this is probably my most visited website, is Wikipedia for this. All the past county finals. So Nenagh 2015, yeah. Oh no, they're in the 2018. Sure, they were beaten by Clonty Rossmore. I forgot about that one. So they love to get back now to a county final. That Loughmore, that game against Clonty was a good day for us Burgess folk. We won the Seamus Arena inside in Semple Stadium on the game beforehand. But yeah, we're not having the best of years this year, but we'll talk about that on next week's podcast, looking ahead to that relegation final against Clonalty in the Premier Intermediate, against Clonakilty in the Premier Intermediate. But let's look at those quarterfinals in the Premier Intermediate and how they went. So the first one we're looking at is Carrick-Swan against the Silvermines. Carrick-Swan 21 points, Silvermines 114. Really entertaining game. The Mines played really, really well in this game. They hit a lot of wides. I thought the wides were killing them as I was watching the game back. You know, this Carrick-Swan team have scores everywhere. Even game, 7 points apiece after 20 minutes. Jason Ford was going well. Aaron Dunn had a really good game for Swan. He scored 3 points from play in the first 23 minutes as I was watching it back. Great save from Conor Murphy in the Silvermines goal from an Eric O'Halloran shot just before half time. And I've just written down, Mines' poor use of the ball in the first half plus wides. I thought the Mines just looked uncomfortable working the ball out from the back. From their short puckouts, they go to the corner back, and it was just kind of breaking down. And the pass would be at the cornerback's ankles, or the hand pass would be a little bit over the head, and they'd have to battle to keep possession and things like that. So it was a little bit shaky, but the second half, it was 11 points to Swan at half time. The second half, Stephen Tobin got some quick fire points. Could have had a goal from close range, but fired over. But the wides were killing the Mines, and it kind of felt like it was a close game. And then I looked at the scoreboard after 42 minutes. It was 17 points to 10 to Carrick-Swan, and you're just thinking, God, if the Mines were just a little bit more accurate here, this could be closer. Danny Quinn, always dangerous in the full forward line for the Mines. Had a goal chance saved by Kieran Lonergan on the 41st minute, but the Mines did get their goal through Sean Nolan on the 51st minute. It was a loose hand pass into the middle of the field from Carrick-Swan that was cut out by Conor McKelvey, and he showed a good turn of pace to just burrow through the middle and open it all up. And really good movement from Sean Nolan, because Conor McKelvey is coming down the line, get down the middle of the field straight towards the black spot, and Sean Nolan, this could sound very simple now, but he just pulled out to the side real nice, gave himself up as that option, and the hand pass came and he finished it up into the top of the net. A brilliant finish. So that made it 18 points to 113. Callum Lanigan, though, bounced back, got a really good kind of accurate point from the sideline and a long range free to make it 20 points to 113. And then 2 points in it at that stage. The Mines just bombing forward, trying to get something going, but the Swan cleared it up the field. They bared down on goals down through the middle, and Oisin Murphy, I think he just let fly on one of the Swan lads as he was running through. He got a straight red card. The ball was brought back for a free on the 21, and it was put over the bar. and that was it. So big win for Carrickswan, back into the semi-finals. It's the end of Silvermine's year, but they've had a really, really good year. I will give a nod to my good friend Andy Hayden. I thought he had a really good game for the Mines, just showing for the ball, winning loose ball, getting on breaks and things like that. He had a very good game, in fairness to him. But for the Mines, a really good year for them in general, just because they've a very young team and a lot of those players have progressed on this year. I thought Luke O'Brien had a really good year. I thought Sean Nolan obviously had a very good year. The young Tracy's in the middle of the field's done well. Just a lot to like from a Silvermines point of view, I'd say, if you're following the team. A lot of young players. The Nolans are young. The McKelveys are still very young. Jason Ford was very good throughout the year, as always. And just kind of a Shawnee McGrath, that's the other lad I was thinking of. I think he's a real fine hurler at cornerback. Like, these are all very young hurlers for the Mines, so I think they'll be happy with the year when they reflect back on it, because fair enough, they were beaten in a close quarter final, and that's always kind of a sickener. But I think they'll be quietly happy with what they've produced this year and how they've progressed along their players. For Carrickswan, the first thing I've written down is they have scorers everywhere. They have lads that can score. Aaron Dunn, Callum Walsh, Callum Lanigan, Ben Mulcair, Gavin O'Halloran, Aaron O'Halloran, lads in the middle of the fields. I'm missing one or two. Eric O'Halloran. They can all chip in with a few scores, and even lads off the bench. So that's always a big plus. They might be a little bit disappointed because, as I said, Silvermines hit a lot of wides and they could have had that game a little bit closer. But Callum Lanigan is a real sharp shooter. We saw that kind of last year, and his form is still really high. So they go into a semi-final. They're going to be playing, are they playing Boherlahan? And it's Upper Church against Gartnahoe, isn't it? Yeah, that's the semi-final. So they'll probably be favourites against Boherlahan, but it's back in the stadium. I think the stadium might suit them, and they'll have a real kind of atonement on their mind of trying to get back to a county final and getting over the line this year. That the other quarter-final is Gartnahoe Langool against Ballina. Gartnahoe 224, Ballina 219. Big win for Gartnahoe, but they really had to work from it. Ronan Tehan, centre forward for Gartnahoe. As I was watching the game, I make notes. So one of the first notes I've written is Ronan Tehan motoring really well. 4 points from play after 23 minutes. He ended up with 2-6, and he was marking Mikey Breen, but I was so impressed. Now that's Ronan Tehan has been hurling with Gartnahoe for years at this stage, but this was a game where I was kind of like, oh yeah, Ronan Tehan is really good. I always knew he was good, but I was like, wow, because he hit the crossbar early on as well, and that was after on the 10th minute he hit the crossbar. Real strong runner with the ball, real accurate, real just strong kind of player. And he hit the crossbar as well, so he could have had 3-6 from play. Unbelievable performance from him nonetheless, though. Charlie King, who I mentioned at the very start of the championship, saying he's kind of unorthodox, but he is so effective. Like, he must have scored 1-4 in every game he played in the championship this year, Charlie King. So impressed from him. Maybe it's just because he holds the hurley turned out, when he's rising the ball, the boss is facing in rather than out. But that kind of allows him to have everything kind of closer, and once he has the ball in his hand, he's such a strong runner. He's real quick turn of pace as well. He scored a goal after the 11th minute, long free down on top of Stephen O'Brien. It broke onto Charlie King and he finished it. It was 111 to 13 points to Ballina at half time, so they're in the lead at the break. But a brilliant Ronan Tehan goal on the 38th minute, got it in that kind of 45 central position. He turned Michael Breen and just took it in and buried it from close range. Then he got another goal 30 seconds later. That was the key moments of that game. Ronan Tehan's second goal, just 30 seconds after his first in the second half. 218 to 113 was the score there. Matthew Power was taken off for Ballina in the 41st minute. He had just taken a free, and then he went off. Like, you'd have to presume he was injured, because he's such a deadly free taker. I can't imagine Ballina would have wanted to do without him. But in fairness to Ballina, they kept plugging away. They got it back to 4 points on the 52nd minute. But after that point, Gartnahoe got the next 3 points in 2 minutes to extend the lead. Ronan Tehan, as I said, 2-6, and a goal for Ballina 4 minutes into injury time with the last puck of the game from Owen Power kind of made the scoreline 5 points rather than 8. But in all, really good performance from Gerton Hu. But Ronan Tehan, definitely performance of the weekend. And if he keeps that kind of form up, who knows where Gerton Hu will go and where Ronan Tehan will go. But that was incredible. Did I say performance of the weekend? It's there with Shamie Callan. I was there for the Shamie Callan one, so I'd probably give him the nod. But brilliant stuff from Ronan Tehan. The next quarterfinal is Borland Douala against Moneygall, 216 to 114, the full-time score here. But it was a late goal for Borland to kind of secure the victory. First score from play, it was a real slow start in this game, was after 13 minutes. That made it 4 points to 3 in favour of Borland. Really well-matched teams. Tossie Ryan, as always, has been making the difference for Borland. He's quick thinking, 21-yard free on the 14th minute. Just took the Moneygall lads off guard. They might be annoyed, maybe was there a whistle or whatever, but they weren't ready. They only had like 2 lads on the line. Tossie Ryan spotted that. He put that into the back of net, and they led by 5 at the half, 110 to 8 points. But Shawnee Kennelly got a brilliant goal to level the game on the 48th minute. Kind of been well marshalled throughout, but this low ball into him, and he kind of caught it at like ankle height as it was bouncing. The defender on him kind of went over his back and nearly flipped over, and Shawnee was in behind then, jinked past the defender and buried it into the back of net, and that levelled up the game. But it was a point in it for the last kind of 10 minutes of the game, and then it was that Paddy Gahan goal on the 60th minute that put 4 between him. Just a big long ball down, it broke, and he pulled on it from about 8 yards out into the back of net, and that was the difference. 216 to 114 it finished. So this was a really, really close game. Borland get over the line. That goal and that Tossie Ryan quick 21 were the difference. Gerard Dwyer, I thought, was very solid at the back. So strong. Just such a unit of a lad at the back, but he was very good. For Moneygall, it's the end of their year, but I think they'll be happy with how they've progressed up. That was their first defeat in the Seamus Arena this year, and they'll look at those goals and think, God, we could have prevented them. But that's just how knockout hurling goes. But as I said, Moneygall should be happy with their year. A lot of young players in that team. I've mentioned their under-19s: Shay Gleeson, Owen Dohan, Tig White, Shawnee Kennelly, Joe Fogarty they kind of found a real nice role for Joe Fogarty, kind of in around the middle of the field. He's getting on an awful lot of ball. He's such a strong runner coming out of defence with the ball. So that's something I'd imagine they'll continue going forward. And then they have those kind of deadly forwards in there when they get the right ball. So Moneygall very, very comfortable at this level. And you'd have no fear for them going into 2026. For Borland, they're into a semi-final now. Playing Carrick Swan, but John Borland only came up from the intermediate 2-3 years ago. So this has been a brilliant progression for them. And they'll have a right cut off Carrick Swan. They're back into Semple Stadium. Does it feel like bonus territory for Borland? I don't know. That's up for Borland people to decide. But brilliant season so far for Borland, and it's not finished yet. The other quarter-final then, Upperchurch Drumban against Killinall. This finished 20 points to 112, and Upperchurch getting the 5-point victory there. Really slow game. 5 points each after 20 minutes, nothing in it. I've Killinall spelled wrong there, which is annoying me, so I've changed that. But looking back on this, Killinall just hit so many wides from frees, from play. God, I didn't keep count now, but I'd say at halftime they'd close to 10 wides. And it was 10 points to 7 to Upperchurch at halftime. So brilliant Paddy Green point where it mentioned just before halftime underneath the stand in Holycross, kind of threw up a dummy ball back on his hurley, and then off the hurley over the bar. Brilliant score from him. Such a kind of classy player down through the years. But the second half, it was Paddy Phelan and Pat Ryan that kind of won the game for Upperchurch. They got some brilliant scores to pair them. And that was in the second half. The Upperchurch forwards working really hard, as I've noted down there. A lot of turnovers, a lot of winning the ball back off a Killinall defender as they were coming out. 17 points to 9 after 42 minutes. Bubbles was in goals for Killinall. He went outfield after 55 minutes. They brought on someone else in goals. Bubbles went up the field. He took a free and put it over the bar, and that kind of had me thinking, like, even if he was walking around in the forwards for the game and just hitting frees, this probably would have been a closer one. And that's not to have a go at the free takers at Loughmore. He just had one of those days where he missed a few frees, and it was that kind of game, low scoring affair where all those points counted for a little bit more. And it wasn't just him. There was a lot of wides from play from Kilruane players all over the place. So I think Kilruane will reflect back on this and think, God, if we were a little bit more efficient with our scoring, we could be in a semi-final. Tom Stakelum got a goal in the 63rd minute. The Upperchurch goalkeeper, kind of a ball coming across the square, a lot of players in around the square. This was well into injury time, and he just dropped it to the ground, and Tom Stakelum pulled on it and into the back of the net. So that was 20 points to 112. But it is Upperchurch who go marching on, and they're a really, really hard team to beat. They're really sturdy at the back. They've got a few kind of warriors there, and Pat Ryan and Paddy Phelan and the Shanahans there, that nothing comes easy off, and Paddy Green as well. Of course, Gavin Ryan in the backs, really good from range as well, taking shots. So Upperchurch are always going to be hard to beat. They're back into a semi-final now where they're beaten by Cashel after extra time. So I still think Upperchurch will probably think we haven't played our best at all this year, and we're into a semi-final. So if they can get it right, we all know how good the Upperchurch lads are. So they'll feel there's another few gears in them yet. So that's how the Premier Intermediate quarterfinals went. Let's go to our predictions now. I predicted Kilruane to win. They didn't. It was Upperchurch who got the win there. I predicted Gartnahoe to beat Ballina. They did. I predicted Moneygall to beat Boherlahan. It was Boherlahan who won the game. And I predicted Carrick Swan to beat the Mines. So finally, my prediction of the Mines losing comes true. I think I backed against them in most rounds, and they won, which the Mines lads were reminding me of. So yeah, that's how it all finished up. I think that's what I got, 2 of 4. So we're still knocking about 50% at the minute for our predictions. So let's go quickly now to the Intermediate Championship. God, we're talking for a while here. What are we? 56 minutes, right? Let's fly down through the Intermediate Championship. Golden Kilfeacle 418, Arvale Rovers 25 points. Big win there for Golden. Goals from Jack Bergen on the 13th minute. Nice Ben Curvin hand pass to set him in on goals. Low finish there. Jack Leamy scored a 21-yard free from an angle on the 20th minute. That made it 210 to 7 points. So 210 in 20 minutes for Golden. Jack Leamy is just such a powerhouse. Real kind of, and he's not kind of like a unathletic powerhouse. No, he's a real athlete there, and a real good strike of the ball on the 21. I'm not sure if the Arvale Rovers lads were expecting it, because it wasn't like right in front of the goals. There was a good old angle on it, and he leathered it into the back of the net. But the goal in first half additional time, sorry, how much times does this happen? Goal just before half time to make the half time score 3-11 to 11 points. It happened in the Holycross game. It happened in the Loughmore game, as in that was the score at half time. And it happened here in the Golden Kilfeacle Arvale Rovers game. So 3-11 to 11 points at half time. Arvale trying to work a short puck out. They ended up hitting it. Well, they hit the short puck out to the corner back. He ends up hitting it straight to Josh Keane. He played it forward to Sam Hall, and he roofed it into the back of the net. And then Jack Leamy got his second goal of the game, rampaging through the middle. This was on the 38th minute, 8 minutes into the second half. That made it 4-14 to 15 points. And, you know, you could say there was no looking back there. Then they were up by, 12 points at that point, 11 points at that stage. But Arvale, in fairness to them, kept plugging away. They got it back to 3 or 4 points with just over 5 minutes to go. They made a real game of it. But Padraig Dalton got a goal on the 60th minute. That finished the game. And the Arvale centre-back was sent out. I think it was actually 5-18. I wrote down those results. I think some of them results were wrong on the Tip website when I looked at them the other day, because you had Jack Bergen, Jack Leamy scored 2, Sam Hall, and Padraig Dalton, 5 goals for Golden Kilfeacle there. So, but it was that late goal that kind of, or the 60th minute goal, that stretched it out there. So 5-18 to 25 points. Of course, difficult for Arvale Rovers with the short turnaround. Because who did they beat? They bet Shannon Rovers on penalties, of course, so they had extra time and all that just a week ago. But Golden Kilfeacle go marching on. As I've mentioned, they've been my favourites throughout. The other semi-quarterfinal is Knockavilla Donesky Kickham's against Moyle Rovers. Knockavilla win this game 119 to 15 points. Close game to start, 7 points to 6 after 15 minutes in favour of Moyle Rovers. But Paddy Slattery scored 3 points in the first 21 minutes of the game for Knockavilla, and they went in 12 points to 9 up at half time. Big moment in this game came in the 42nd minute. Dara Ryan of Moyle Rovers had a penalty saved by Owen Horgan. Not the best of penalties, but well done to Owen Horgan for keeping it out. and that was a big moment in the game. But it was an Elliot Thompson goal on the 48th minute to kind of seal the win for Knockavilla. That made it 117 to 12 points. So that was an 8-point lead with just over 10 minutes to go. And they kept that lead and ended up winning 119 to 15 points. So Knockavilla into the the semi-finals. Stephen Brown knocking over frees from all angles as well in that game. This game, these next two games, unbelievable. Bursakane 423, Kilsheal and Kilcash 421. Let's just go down through my notes as I have them. Jack Larkin scored an early goal for Bursakane. Senan Butler got a class goal on the 14th minute to level at 1-5 apiece. Kieran Foley broke through for a goal on the 28th minute. It was 2-9 to 1-10 at half time. Jack Larkin had 1-4 in that first half. Mike Keenan got the first of his goals on the 35th minute for Bursakane, 3-11 to 1-12. Then he got another goal on the 50th minute to make it 4-16 to 2-17. Do I have who scored the Kilsheelan second goal? I must have skipped over that. But Senan Butler got a goal in the 55th minute. I think it was Senan Butler. Did he get 3 goals? No, he definitely got 2. But his goal in the 55th minute made it 4-18 to 3-19. And then one of the Fraineys, I don't know, was it Liam or Mihal? I think it might be Mihal, who scored a goal on the 66th minute. 6 minutes into additional time. That made it a 1-point game. And Bursakane were able to go down the field and get the extra point to win it by 2. Just back and forth game throughout inside in Templemore. Unbelievable game. Sickener for Kilsheelan, but they have put up huge scores in all their games. I think they've scored 4 or 5 goals on a number of games this year. That's a huge win though for Bursakane into a semi-final now. They've been knocking on the door at this stage for a couple of years, but now they're in a semi-final. And you know, that's a good chance of anyone to get to a final. Who's playing who here? It is Kappa White against Golden, isn't it, in the semi-finals, and Bursakane against Knockavilla. Am I right in saying that? Let me pull up the Tipperary website there. I should have had these draws in front of me. Let's see, Tipperary. Let me see, fixtures. This is the Michael Maher Cup, isn't it? It is. Let's see, do they have them on the website? Fixtures. Oh, they don't. That is a bit of a sickener. Let's go on to the old Tip FM website. Best place for sport in the county. I definitely have it here. There we go. That might be a bit small for you, but let me get it up here. Knockavilla against Bursakane and Golden against Kappa White. Yeah, so John Bursakane will fancy their chances against Knockavilla, and likewise Knockavilla against Bursakane. So that's going to be a really interesting semi-final. Let's have a look at the other game in that group. Crazy finish, or in the quarterfinals, crazy finish to this game. Kappa White 118, Ballingarry 19 points. Dylan Walsh was back for Ballingarry. Start of the game seemed to be kind of centre back midfield, but it was all Ballingarry in that first half. 14 points to 7. And it could have been more. Conor Vaughan had a penalty saved by Anthony Barry on the 9th minute. And I have in brackets here, cameraman in a world of his own, in his own world. Clubber is an unbelievable service, you know, for showing all these games and having commentary and cameramen there. I'd never want to be critical, but the camera work in this game makes it really, really hard to watch back. I've never done camera work for a game. I'm sure it's difficult to keep track of a sliotar up and down the field for 60 minutes, but it was zooming in, it was off shot. Like while that penalty was being taken, the camera was pointing at the middle of the field, and while the penalty was being taken. So unfortunately for Anthony Barry and the Kappa White goals, we couldn't see his heroics for saving the penalty. But yeah, very, very difficult to watch this game back on Clubber with the camera work. But Willie Barry had a penalty saved then. The Ballingarry goalkeeper, Paulie Maher, saved it on the 43rd minute. But the second half then was all Kappa White. Tom Tracy levelled it on the 53rd minute, 15 points apiece, and you're thinking there's only going to be one winner here. Kappa White have all the momentum. Ballingarry had only scored 1 point in the first 23 minutes of the second half. But then Ballingarry erupted and got the next 4 points of the game to go 19 points to 15 up after 58 minutes. Then you had a brilliant Dara Duggan point over near the sideline and a Willie Barry free to bring it back to a 2-point game in the 61st minute. But then Ballingarry, Tommy McGrath extended the lead to 3 on the 63rd minute. So yeah, I would have had the score wrong there. It should have been it should have been 18 points to 15 on the 58th minute. but it was that Tommy McGrath point in 3 minutes into extra time. You're thinking that's the one to win it. They lead by 3 at this point. But then 6 minutes into additional time, Connor Martin with a goal, long ball in, broke in behind, he got it, buried it into the back of the net. That leveled the game. The puck out goes long. It breaks down to one of the Kappa White halfbacks. He brings it out. Did I say Clounty at some stage there in the last few minutes? It's Kappa White we're talking about here anyway. But breaks out to the Kappa White wing back. He plays it to David Buckley, the centre forward, and he fires over the winner. So they get 1-1 in about 30 seconds, 6 minutes into additional time to win the game by a point. They've had a few late shows, Kappa White, throughout the year, but that is a huge win for them. Ballingarry beaten finalists last year, down at the quarter-final stage this year. So a sickener for them, but what a finish, what an entertaining finish. So it's going to be a repeat of the West final. Kappa White are going to be taking on Golden Kilfeacle in one semi-final, and then Bursakane against Knockavilla in the other semi-final in 2 weeks' time. In terms of predictions, we went with Knockavilla to beat Moy Rovers. They did, and one final hat tip to JP Grace there, coaching Moy Rovers. A brilliant season for them coming up from the Junior A grade to get to a quarter-final. We predicted Golden to win that game. They did. We predicted Kilsheelan Kilcash to beat Bursakane. They didn't. If you told me they'd scored 421, I would have said, yeah, they surely win. But 423 for Bursakane got them the win. And we predicted Kappa White to beat Ballingarry, and they did. So we went 3 of 4 there. And something very interesting there, you can make sure you can see that. Team 1 versus Team 2 is how the Tipperary GAA send out the fixtures. And Team 1 won all of the games here. All 13 of the 14 games were won by Team 1. The only Team 2 to win was Drummond. So that's just very unusual looking at it there. Let's go down through. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we got 8 out of 14. And that is just probably around 60%, which is our batting average for this year. 8 out of 14. Yeah, just about 58-ish%, is it? So yeah, we'll round it up to 60%. So what were we? Did I have it in total up to last week? Overall predictions, 50 out of 82. So we're now 58 out of 96. Is that right? 50 plus 8 is 58. Anyway, we know that. And so 58. And what was it? 82, wasn't it? In the last one, 82 plus 14 is 96. So we're 58 out of 96 for the predictions for the year. What's that as a percentage? 58 divided by 96 multiplied by 100. Is that right? 60%, 60.41%. So we're 60% of the time we're right all the time. So that's how we're going with the predictions so far. So yeah, what are we? God, we're an hour and 7 minutes in. This is a long podcast. We do have some Instagram replies to get to, so I put up my story saying that I was recording the podcast, anything you wanted me to talk about, and we got some good replies. So let's get to them. At PCarlSport on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, if you want to follow me there. Let's see, the replies we got. Ronan T in 2-6, we talked about that. Someone said Carrick-Swan are going to win the Premier Intermediate. Probably my favourites. They have been kind of since the start. Them or Gartnahoe, they're both still there. They could meet in the final. So, I went back against Carrick-Swan, semi-final inside in Semple Stadium. I just think Semple Stadium might suit them. Someone said, should more people have attended the quarter-finals? I think inside in Semple Stadium there was 3,000 to 4,000 people there on both days. I think that's pretty good. To be fair, there was a lot of other games happening at the same time and things like that, but I think that was fairly okay. Someone mentioned the Tom Cusack Cup. That's the football competition for the teams that don't make the knockout stages in the senior football or the senior relegation. To be honest, haven't looked into that just yet. We haven't fully transitioned over to the football week in terms of my work week, but we'll have a look at that. Old lads still doing it for the club. Don't want to be calling anyone old, but I think what age is Shamie Callanan? Let me look this up here. This is real the kind of after our stuff now, the podcast. We've gotten past the meat and bones of it. 37 years old since the 15th of September, so he's 37 and he's putting in that sort of performance. Unbelievable from him. And someone said Holycross and Loughmore favourites. Let's have a quick look at the odds for the Tipperary Championship after the weekend, and we'll give it a quick opinion on that. Gaelic games, and let's go to. It's always just nice to see what the kind of consensus is. So outright, Loughmore 7-5, Nenagh is 11-5, Holycross 3-1, and Drum 13-2. So interesting. Nenagh, well ahead of Drum and Inch there. Drum 6.5-1 for the county title. Like, I was very impressed with Drum the other day. They're going to have 2 weeks break now before this Nenagh game. Interesting to see how all that plays out, but that's how the bookmakers have it, with Loughmore out in front as favourites, and then Nenagh second favourites 3-1 for Holycross. And I didn't mean for this to come up, but a nice little plug there for my quid game thing. We're up to 150 quid. We were on €0 raised last week. If you haven't listened, I'm doing the quid games with Tipperary GAA, trying to raise money for Tip GAA and for my own club. That's what the QR code on the screen is there. If you do want to donate, the link is there. If you want to scan that QR code, I'll have the link in the description as well. So yeah, that's just about it for this week's podcast. It's a long one, an hour and 10 minutes. I hope you've enjoyed. A reminder, I should have done a reminder throughout to like the video. 100 likes is a big ask. Let's see, can we get there? As always, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, subscribe here on YouTube, follow the podcast if you haven't already. Any questions you ever want to send in, probably Twitter or Instagram is the best place to do it, or the comments below. What did you think of the weekend? Who do you think is going to win the Dan Breen Championship, the Seamus O'Reen, the Michael Maher Cup? Who's lifting those in your opinion? We've 4 teams left. That's it for this week's podcast. Next week we'll do a podcast looking ahead to those semi-finals. That will probably be Wednesday of next week. Until then, have a really good week. Really looking forward to those semi-finals in 2 weeks' time. But for this week's podcast, it is bye for now. Have a good one.